I'm Todd Cohen. Welcome to my sales culture channel. Make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you hit notification, all those great buttons because I am putting up tons of new content and I'm only going to keep going and going and going. I don't want you to miss a single video because these are all about how you can achieve what you want, need, and deserve. Now, one of the things I talk about all the time, and is really the core of my work, is about developing a sales mindset. In other words, everything we do is a selling motion for us. It builds relationships, it creates momentum, it propels our careers. And you know what's really interesting about this is that one thing I notice with a lot of people, salespeople, and in fact, people in general, is that I can almost put them in two categories. There are those who have a relationship mindset, a mindset for networking, a mindset for long term relationship development. And then there are those who look at every time they connect with somebody as a transaction. In other words, a relationship mentality, a relationship mindset versus a transaction mentality, a transaction mindset. And what's so interesting is, well, let me ask you the obvious question. Which mindset is going to achieve more? Well, if you answered the relationship mindset, of course you're correct. You see, people sense and sniff out and know intuitively who's the real deal or not, who's authentic, who's full of you know what, and who's actually interested in the other person. In other words, not looking at every interaction as an opportunity to get something, but looking at every interaction, email, phone call, conversation, networking event, whatever it might be, every interaction with another person as another brick, if you will, in the house that you're building of the relationship that you're building with that person. There you go. How's that for a metaphor, huh? So listen, relationship mindset, relationship mentality, transaction mindset, transaction mentality. So the perfect example is recently I just bought myself a new car. It's something I've been wanting for a long time, and I finally just said, I'm going to do it. I bought it. Now I have it, and I'm thrilled. I have to say, though, that the whole experience was completely transaction oriented. In other words, I shopped around, I read all of the dealers' mission statements. They want to build community, they want to build a relationship, blah, blah, blah. And I believe somewhere along the line, there was probably some sincerity as they wrote that. The reality of it is how the actual process of buying the car went down was completely transaction oriented. Now, here's a tip. Make sure you know your product. Make sure you know your product cold. Because if I know more about your product than you do, then you are not fulfilling your goal of actually building a relationship. In other words, that beautiful mission statement on the wall of that dealership that says, we care about our customers, we want to build relationships. If you don't know your own product, that has gone right out the window. That doesn't mean you have to know everything. It does mean, though, that you, after a certain period of time, you better know what it is you're selling and be able to answer questions. And if not, instill confidence in me that you have the relationship internally to get me to where I need to go. I got to tell you, I am constantly disappointed out there by people who look at me or look at people around me or anybody for that matter as a transaction, not as an opportunity to build a relationship. Folks, developing this mindset is a critical element of building a successful career, a successful business. This is non-negotiable. If everything you do is nothing more than a transaction, then you will get exactly out of it what you're putting into it. A very limited growth pattern with lots of transactions, but really no depth, no relationships. If you want me to refer you, if you want to be thought of, if you want to be memorable, people have to believe without a shadow of a doubt that you are in it for the relationship. You are in it for the long haul, not just words, cliches, an empty mission statement, or things that you don't live every single day. So look around you. Look around at the people you work with. Look around at the relationships you have. Look in the mirror. Be very introspective. Take a moment and do a gut check. Are you building a relationship mentality. Do you go into everything with a relationship mindset, or do you go into things with a transaction mindset? Now, I want to put this out there as well. I've had people argue this point with me, and frankly, it's not really arguable, but okay, here was the argument that was put forward to me about a month ago. Well, Todd, I could have a relationship and do transactions. Absolutely. And what's underwriting those transactions, that repeat business, the transactions that you're doing, what underwrites that is my belief that you're the right person, that I'm in the right place, and that only comes from building a relationship. In other words, if you're just going for the jugular, just going for that transaction and not investing time in the relationship, you are going to work a whole lot harder than you need to. You're going to be scrambling a whole lot more than you need to. Here's another perfect example. I probably will never buy a car there again. Now, look, nice people, real easy to deal with, which was kind of a surprise. The reality of it is, I don't feel like they really live the words of their mission statement. Do you live in the way where you're building relationships first and foremost, and then knowing the transactions will come, or are you just in it for the transactions? Folks, this is a gut check for all of us. Now, I didn't do this video just so I could pick on car dealers, because the last thing I want to do is continue to reinforce the negative stereotypes, because that's what I work to eradicate. And I will tell you, I've purchased lots of cars in my life from excellent dealers who literally understand and live the words, we're in it for the relationship. This particular transaction was for me a rude awakening. And I felt it's important to get out there and remind you that every single day is an opportunity to define yourself as somebody who operates out of a relationship mindset, knowing that the transactions, whatever they look like, they'll be there. I'm Todd Cohen. Go out, build relationships. The awesomeness will follow you. I promise.